I hope you had a wonderful Thanksgiving. We're going to be moving now into December. It's going to be moving towards Christmas, New Year's. There'll be a lot of reflection on the past year. Do you recall, as we look back a little bit, we remember Anheuser-Busch and Disney and Target, the major collapse of what's happened with them because they embraced woke ideology? Well, did you hear what happened with the, Miss Universe? Listen to this. I got this and 7 other developments. Listen. You know, about a year ago, Miss Universe, their franchise said, we're going to put transgender guys in and say they can compete with the women. The women hated it, but they were coerced and forced. Well, this year, all of a sudden, they said, yeah, we're going to keep pushing this. Well, guess what's happened? They finally realized with pushback, you've heard it said, go woke, go broke. Well, the franchise has just declared bankruptcy because they pushed this thing. And people say, no, we don't want it. What else has been going on? Well, there's lots, and we need to pay attention. You know, there was a major defeat in Ohio, and I grew up in Cleveland, Ohio, 20 years of my life, because they wanted to move, and they accomplished it, enshrining in the Constitution, basically, abortion on demand at any time, for any reason, for anything, whatever. So it is a setback, but we, as pro-lifers and those that stand for the sanctity of life, have to continue to pray and stand up for the sanctity of human life. Did you hear what's happened recently in England? Well, if we don't stand up for the sanctity of life, here's the next thing. It's called infanticide. And you saw the governor of Virginia, when he pushed for that, said a baby born, you know, let the baby just lie there if it's born prematurely or whatever, and then you decide. Well, you know what happened in England recently? Socialized medicine. A man and a woman with their precious daughter, 8-month-old. She had need for medical, life support and help, and the English government said no. And the little girl, 8 months old, she died. What is this? Well, this is when we don't uphold the sanctity of life. We then start to push for infanticide and euthanasia. Italy in this situation even offered, bring her here, we'll take care of this baby. So this should be a warning shot. We need to be continuing in standing for the sanctity of human life. The same thing we need to do is developments with regards to immigration. Do you know in the month of October, the Federal Border Patrol, they said that there were, listen to this, there were 13 individuals, terrorists, yes, on the terror watch list that they caught trying to get into America. Now, this is dangerous, folks, but do you know that in 2018 until 2020, under President Trump, how many were on that list? They caught only, you know how many? 13. You say, wait, you mean in 2 years? Well, we had measures in place, and today we've got to be alert what's going on. You know, this is a national security issue. If we just have open borders and an administration that says, let them all in, well, they'll tell us, they'll say, no, the border's closed, the border is, under control and all that. And you'll hear the president and Mayorkas, and the White House spokesperson tell, this is false, this is untrue. And the media will support this because they want to see open borders, let everybody in. When you do that, though, you know who you're letting in? Terrorists, sex traffickers, smugglers. We don't even know who's coming in. And we've got them coming in, they say close to what? In 2 years, 10 million. Well, Mr. Trump had a senior advisor when he was president, Stephen Miller, and he's been working on something called Project 2025. And they want to reinstitute and they want to recapture what was being done for successful border control and national security. But MSNBC, Joy Reid, she goes on the air and says, Stephen Miller, this guy is a white supremacist and he wants to return to throwing families and kids in cages and all that. She's a vile liar. I have to tell the truth. This is a good thing, what Mr. Miller is doing, but we've got to make sure, no matter what, even the mayors and governors, Democrats, not just Republicans, are saying this is dangerous for our country. Sleeper cells, terrorists, we'd better be praying and make sure the right people get in office so we can turn things around. What else is going on? Well, in terms of Israel, you know, I was in D.C. for Intercessors for America 50th anniversary, and I stood right outside there by the White House. And while we were there, we realized just recently they had about 100,000 pro-Palestinians. And boy, you had swastika and, you know, calling Israel, you know, to be exterminated and all that. Well, the media covered it. Oh, it went global. Well, did you know that recently almost 300,000 pro-Israel supporters also met in D.C.? Was it covered? What did the Washington Post do with this one? Again, you know, democracy dies in darkness. That's the motto. Well, what did they do? Well, they basically buried the story on the Metro page instead of giving it the headlines. And by the way, this demonstration, no trouble, no arrests, no wild mayhem whatsoever. We must continue to pray because there is a spirit at work, and it's a demonic spirit of anti-Semitism that wants to see Jews exterminated. But we're going to stand up and we're going to pray, and we're going to make sure that we stand with Israel and pray for the peace of Jerusalem and stand with them for warring angels to be assisting them as they're rooting out killers. It's either kill or be killed, and they're going to get rid of Hamas and those that have done terrible slaughtering and butchery in that land. What else has been going on? It's amazing. The leader of China was coming to San Francisco recently. And for years, people have said, what about the homeless on the streets? They're out there. They defecate. They put needles in themselves, in their necks and that. And the government does nothing about it. Well, you know, people, the media, there's nothing you can do. And we can't oppress them. They're victims. Well, as soon as we found out about Xi was coming, President Xi, oh, man, in a matter of days, they swept it clean. Everybody was off the streets. No more homeless. It can be done. Now, you say, well, they're going to return. Well, government has to be put in. When the righteous are in authority, the people rejoice. When the wicked rule, the people groan. And it can be done. And you've got to realize probably 80 to 90% of those that are homeless and that are out there as addicts, they are choosing it and they want that. We can put them in rehab, but they don't want, because then they can't stay inebriated or have their drugs. Well, we need to pray and vote and get the right people in office. What else has been going on? Well, parents, grandparents, I want to warn you and say be alert. TikTok. Oh, you know, I like Facebook and kids on social media. You need to be aware of the dangers of TikTok emanating out of China. And recently, what did they do? They had on TikTok an original letter from bin Laden, the engineer for 9/11 that slaughtered thousands in our country. And there was a statement, and it came forth, and people were applauding it and saying, this is good. Folks, what is going into your children? You better be very much aware. The Taliban, do you remember the Taliban? Well, they come back into leadership, and they say, if you're a gay person, homosexual, same-sex marriage, they'll kill you. If you're a woman, you're not going to be educated. If you're a woman, you're not going to be able to travel somewhere without your husband. I mean, you're not going to get an education. Kids need to know the dangers of Taliban, and also they need to be awakened what's been happening. When TikTok, you better be very careful because there's propaganda coming right through there. Let me tell you something else that's been going on, and I think this is really interesting. I have a dear friend, and his name is Mike Bickle. I've known Mike almost 50 years. He's a man of character. He's a man of courage, conviction. He's been one of the leaders, pioneers in the world for the prayer movement. He launched the International House of Prayer there in Kansas City, and now they're all over the world. Well, you probably heard there's been some accusations being brought against him. Well, we need to pray, because I've been concerned. I've seen things posted, and I've seen people almost gleeful saying, yeah, well, you know, this is what you got. You got some of those prophetic people. They're so crazy, and I think Bickle's the next one. Folks, I say be very careful. The Bible warns us. We have to discern, and it says you don't bring charges against a leader except you have proper evidence, due process, and also we have to be very careful that things are being done properly. Leaders are endeavoring to investigate. They've already seen, I think it's 5 of the 8 so-called accusers peeling off. And so we need to pray for wisdom, and I'd say we need to pray for our brother Mike Bickle, because I know what it's like to be under assault. I know what it's like. I've gotten hit with it in 51 years of ministry. Even Billy Graham. Billy Graham was in England, and somebody, reported when in the newspaper when he was there for a crusade. He was seen with Beverly, this lady or whatever on the street. It was George Beverly Shea, a man that was on his team. And then he was in a bar, restaurant, pub, and he was drinking, I guess it was a ginger ale. Oh, they blasted him there. Billy drinking in a bar, drunk and all that stuff. And he got attacked. Well, Billy had his flaws. I have my flaws. Others do. But, we have to be very careful when somebody is under attack. And I'd say, please pray for Mike Bickle. I know this man, and I believe God's will be accomplished. But we need to remember the Bible says this. It says clearly, a friend loves at all times, but a brother is born for adversity. And I go on record, he's one of my heroes, and I'm watching and believing God for good things to come out. Whatever the enemy, I believe, means for evil, the Bible says God intends for good. Let me give you one more and we'll close. I got a phone call from a man that he really believes in literature evangelism. I always encourage people, write up your personal tracts, give it to people, share. And with Christmas coming, it's a great time to, give the reason for the season. Well, this man just told me on the phone, he put together a little booklet or whatever it was on, searching for truth. And he said in LA, he found out there was 850 various yoga centers, Buddhism, false religion, New Age. Well, what did he do? He printed things up. He sent it out to all 850. And then he said, you know what? He's already seen 2 of them have shut down because the Buddhist leaders, they heard the truth and read it, and they decided we're going to follow after Jesus and not this false ideology. We're living in dangerous times, folks, but I want to keep you tuned in. That's why we do these weekend reviews. Keep you tuned so you can pray, you can also be engaged, and you have not a bias in the news, but you get the truth. Let me end by telling you this. Do you know that we are living in a time that the Bible says there will be tremendous persecution and betrayal, but it's our time to be discerning and to be very careful and stand for truth.
Hey friends, if you felt this video was helpful, make sure you like and subscribe so you get notified once new videos become available. Thanks.